You can hear me. So I am sitting in it's like I had a training, so I'm sitting in this little hallway here. Hey Mocha Princess, can you guys hear me? Trying to be fancy and use the earphones. So I want to thank you guys for logging in, stopping your scrolling to come to the live. Today I'm talking about self-awareness and healing. So I know both of you guys know me very well. I am going to save this live. So for the replay, I will just share that my name is Tanisha Johnson, aka TJ Self-Care. I am the founder of TJ Self-Care, and I'm your codependency expert. I am a writer, a blogger, and I'm on my healing journey just like you. And today I just wanted to make sure we know the importance of self-awareness. So many of you have been following my personal healing journey. And every time, I learn something, every time I get a gem for myself, I try to share it, with you guys. Let me make sure. Okay, some technical difficulties. I hope that's better. But I try to share it with you guys. So I want you to just let me know where you are on your healing journey. Drop a 1 in the chat if you are new to healing, you're just now starting. Drop a 5 in the chat if you've been on your healing journey longer than like 3 or 4 years. And okay, you said you can hear me fine. Perfect. Yeah, drop a 5 in the chat if you've been on your healing journey like longer than 3 or 4 years. And drop a 10 in the chat if you've been healing for longer than 5 years. So first off, kudos to you for that. Oh, Mocha, wow, it's been a minute. Hey, Javier, good to see you. So, I feel like a lot of people don't really acknowledge how self-awareness can really spark us to be able to get in tune with ourselves and get in tune with our feelings, and that's essentially how we heal, right? And the big part about self-awareness is trying to understand exactly what our needs are and then what our triggers are. So for me, abandonment is like a huge trigger. Oh, you said no, it hasn't been years, 3 to 5 months. Okay, well, I mean, that's still progress, 3 to 5 months. But it's an experience that we go through where we try to learn and understand our triggers, what's important to us, what's not important to us, like what are things that we want, what are things that we want in our relationships, and not just like intimate relationships, but also relationships like with friends, with family, with our colleagues at work, like with everybody, right? And so as we go through this journey, understanding what triggers us is really going to be a game changer. So like I said, for me, it's definitely abandonment. Anytime I feel abandoned, rejected, I go into this dark place. And originally I used to always judge myself and ask myself, Tanisha, why are you feeling down about that? Blah, blah, blah. But now I kind of use that as a tool to kind of help me understand okay, well, what exactly do you need in this moment? And so that's what I want you to do. As things come up, it's easy for us to say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't be doing this. And then we get really overcritical of ourselves, right? And then we beat ourselves up and we say that we don't have enough discipline, or, we're not quote unquote doing it right? There's no right way to heal. So that's number one. We all heal differently, But I think acknowledging though, when things feel hard and challenging, can be a huge sense of growth. And so what I really urge you to do is ask yourself these open-ended questions. Hey, Virgo, Joe, how are you? Like, why does this feel hard for me right now? Or what did this person specifically say or do that's causing me to feel this way? And it's like in those types of questions that we ask ourselves, that's when you go deeper and deeper and deeper into like what's really bothering you, how you're really feeling. And it's like once we know what's bothering us and what we're feeling, that's when we start to do that inner child work, that shadow work. A lot of people don't like shadow work, and I understand why, because it's the hard work, right? I don't know, tell me in the chat how you guys feel about inner child work. When I first started my healing journey, I'll be the first to say that I didn't see a purpose for inner child work. I was just, every time like I would go to therapy, I would actually get pissed off at my therapist. Like, I'm here because of a breakup and because I see signs of depression. Why does this woman keep asking me questions about how I was raised? Like, and hey Bella, how are you? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. I was like, why she keep asking me these questions? Like, I'm here because I'm depressed and I can't get out the bed. I don't understand how talking about something that happened to me like 20, 30 years ago is gonna help me in that moment, right? But what I realized through my own journey is that's the part of us essentially that is broken, confused, doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, it's that inner child, right? And the inner child feels like their needs are not being met, you know. Mocha said, same, like what that got to do with my breakup. And then Stephanie said, you are so brave and very inspiring. Oh, thank you so much. Hey, Leon, Susan, thank you for joining. Virgo Joe said, inner child work is the basis of how we react to situations in adulthood. Yes, absolutely. Round of applause. You are so true. And so that's why we need that self-awareness, right? We need to know, well, what did happen to me, right? Because the brain is making us feel like the same thing is either happening or the same thing is going to happen to us as our childhood. So that happened in our childhood. So it's like, in order for us to break that connection between what happened and what's happening now, we have to get clear about what happened, right? It's like, that's the only way. The only way for us to heal is to get clear about what did happen, right? And once we know what did happen to us, that's when we can say, okay, this situation is very similar than childhood or through whatever, but it's not necessarily that. Hey, Love Bears All Gifts. Hey, DeQuisha, thank you for joining. Hey, Sweet Honey Kisses, how are you? And so as we go on our journey, being able to have this information about what did happen to us, what we did experience, whether it was abandonment or rejection. And listen, if you joined my live before, you've heard me say this before. And for that, I'm sorry that I'm so repetitive. But for those of you who are new, and I see a lot of new people, if you are struggling with people pleasing or codependency, you have already either been abandoned, rejected. You've already been abandoned, rejected, or both. Hopefully you guys can hear me because I had a call come through. But I'll say that again. If you struggle with people pleasing or codependency, you have either been abandoned, rejected, or both in your childhood, like already. It's already happened, right? People ask me, well, you know, Tanisha, I don't remember like being rejected. I had a great childhood, this and that. And those things are great. But there is a thing of emotional abandonment, and that's like the top thing that many people that struggle with people pleasing and codependency have gone through. It's things like your parent not helping you with your homework, Things like you over caring for your siblings, right? And it's like, feel free to like put a 1 in the chat if you've been through any of these things. You know, your mom or dad or caregiver is supposed to pick you up from school a certain time, they came late. You had a bad day at school, there's nobody for you to come home and talk to. Like, hey, I had a bad day, they picked on me, this and that. When you ask for support or you ask like for help in your home, you feel like you get belittled or you get pushed down or your caregiver looks irritated. And I'm not saying this as like a one-time thing. These are like consistent things. And generally when they're consistent is because we grew up in homes with caregivers that either struggle with alcohol addiction, drug addiction, they had a undiagnosed or diagnosed mental health disability, or they were just overall a parent that really struggled to take care of themselves, therefore they struggle to take care of us, right? So we go through all of these different barriers to learn how to essentially survive in our home with this parent, right? When we are 4, 5, 6, even, 10 years old, we can't pack a bag and say, hey, I don't like how you talk to me anymore, so I'm leaving, right? Our brains find a way to stay connected to that parent because essentially from 0 to 5, I mean, the caregiver or the parent is the child's everything, right? That's where they get their food, water, clothing, shelter, everything. They can't do anything for themselves. A human being can do nothing for themselves between 0 to 5, essentially. They're still learning. And as we're still learning, another thing that's happening is 80% of our brain, a human brain, I'm talking about not just kids, I'm talking about adult, human period, in human development, 80% of your brain is growing while you're in this very fragile and crucial stage of not being able to do for yourself. So what ends up happening is the relationship between your caregiver essentially is the first human relationship you have. And like Virgo said here, it becomes the foundation. So however you had to interact and engage with that parent, that's now how you act and engage with other people. And as we get older and we have experiences, it just becomes more of a routine for us to do the same thing. The same thing. And anytime something happens similar that happened in our childhood, whether it be good or bad, our brain's job is to spark like, this is what we do when this happens. This is what we do when this happens. This is what this means. So people ask me a lot in my coaching program, like they say things like, Tanisha, like I feel tired. Tanisha, I feel like I'm always like running around and changing and doing things and trying this and trying that. I'm setting boundaries. I'm so drained. And it's literally because you are changing the whole process of how you think and function. And your brain is like, this is exhausting. Like when people piss us off, we usually cut them off. That's what we do. We cut people off because no one will ever come and hurt us like that parent or caregiver hurt us, right? This is all subconscious, right? So when we start healing and we become aware now of that behavior pattern and we see how it's not working for us, then we say, you know what? I'm going to start telling people how I feel. I'm going to start having conversations with people. And your brain is like, what? We don't do that. We don't do that. And the whole nervous system just gets thrown off. That's why we feel tired. That's why we feel exhausted. That's why we feel like we're going crazy. So I just want to drop some gems today. So if you are sitting at home or sitting, wherever you are, and you like, oh my God, Tanisha, like, no, that's what's going on. You're not crazy, but because you are doing something completely different than what you usually do, your brain is like literally, it's almost like there's a fire going on it. And everybody that work in our brain is like, fire, fire. Like they don't know what to do because we're doing things completely different. And that's why when I say self-awareness is key, self-awareness is our ticket to understanding that, you know what, it's okay to pause. Like sometimes throughout the day, I literally sit or stand wherever I am and I just close my eyes for just like 15 seconds. And I just tell myself, Tanisha, stop. Tanisha, don't rush. Tanisha is going to be okay. Whatever affirmation I need to give myself, that's what I do for myself. So in my next up and coming workshop, which is Sunday, October 8th, self-awareness is one of the things that I'll be talking about in the workshop. There's going to be 4 core elements. So when it comes to healing and dealing with life, there's 4 essential things. So I hope you have some paper. If you don't, I'm going to try to write them in the chat. There are 4 essential things that you need. The first thing, like we're talking about today, is self-awareness. We have to ask ourselves, what happened to us? How is this affecting me? How does this show up in my life, in my relationships, with my relationship with myself? Have you ever asked yourself, like, am I centering myself? Do I even know how to do that? Some people don't even know how to do that, right? And that's okay too. Generally, people who struggle with people pleasing and codependency do not know how to center self, because the brain has been taught that in order for us to get a need met, we first have to meet other people's needs. And I don't want you to beat yourself up for that. I don't beat myself up for the years I spent as a people pleaser and codependent, because I know that if I had not learned how to focus on my parent more than me, I may not even be sitting here today. When we have parents that are erratic in their behavior, we have to learn how to walk on eggshells in order to survive. But now we acknowledge that, you know what, I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to live. I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to feel like I have to take care of everybody around me 24/7. Hey, how you doing? It's great to see you, Tiffany. I want to feel like I have people that can take care of me. I want to feel like I have people around me that acknowledge my feelings and that acknowledge my needs. And these are things that we're worthy of. But until we take that break, until we build up that self-awareness, we will function in the same way we've always functioned, because our brain is trying to make sure we're still here, to make sure we're still surviving. So it's me and you that got to say, you know what? I don't want to just survive anymore. Like, I want to live. I want to enjoy myself. I want to feel good about my life. We struggle with depression and anxiety and all these things because your inner self knows this is not the life you want to live. Little Tanisha was like, she is so tired of doing what everybody else needs her or wants her to do. My inner child was like struggling. Your inner child is struggling. Like, I really don't want to do this anymore, but this is what we've always done. And so it takes that courage, it takes that self-awareness to say, you know what, I'm ready to make the right steps. I'm ready to make a change. And we make that change by becoming self-aware, also grieving, which is the second concept in my up and coming workshop. We need to grieve the life that we wanted to have. Now, generally with grief, hey Antoinette, it's great to see you. Generally with grief, like, I know for me, when I used to hear grief or think about grief, I would always think about like someone dying or, moving on. I never thought about grief in like an emotional, way. But when we start to heal from people pleasing and codependency, that's a huge step that we have to take, right? And before we even take that step, honestly, we have to step out of denial. Like, we have to stop telling ourselves that everything is fine. It's not fine. I remember times where I was like crying myself to sleep at night and then waking up putting on clothes, putting on, makeup, and, doing my hair and going through all my grooming, rituals for the day. And then I would come to work with a big old smile on my face. Nobody ever knew, right? All those things many of us learn way from childhood. And I didn't really want to believe it, As many of you know my journey. I went to a lot of 12-step meetings. I went through a whole Codependency Anonymous 12-step group. And I remember one of the first lessons that we did talked about denial. And I was like, I don't have any denial. I acknowledge that I'm a people pleaser. And I'm trying to learn to accept that I'm codependent because I didn't want to accept it. I had to learn to accept that I was a codependent, but I'm not in any denial. That's what I told myself. And as I went through the steps, I did the exercises, I reflected and talked about it. I said, wow, I created this world in my mind where my life wasn't as bad as it really was, where I was minimizing all the negative experiences I had been through. I minimized my father leaving me. I minimized, caregivers verbally abusing me. I minimized being physically beaten, slapped, pushed upside the wall for very basic things that any child would do, right? Hey, G-Jack, it's great to see you. I minimized being raped. I minimized everything because in my mind, and maybe even in your mind, we have to minimize these things in order to move forward, right? I love the fact that I'm perseverant, but I also can say that me being perseverant caused a lot of blind spots in my life because I didn't slow down long enough to really assess what was going on in my life and the things that I needed to change. And so when we step out of that denial, I want you to ask yourself, just write it in the journal. Nobody has to see this, right? And learn to be honest with yourself too. It's ask yourself, am I really happy with the direction that my life is going? Are there patterns in my life that I see that I want to change? What are those patterns? Are there situations that have occurred in my life, whether it be present or past, that I wish didn't happen? And I know, many of us are on this manifestation kick and we don't want to go back to the past. We want to move forward. And I honor that. But I also want to be honest with you and transparent and say, we have to go back to that place. You have to. I'm not saying you have to stay there, but you have to go back and acknowledge that something happened. Because that's where all the pieces are. Healing is so this is just my perspective, right? And you guys put yours in the chat. G-Jack said that that's a survival response. Yes, absolutely. But for me, healing has kind of been trying to put together pieces of a puzzle. And it seems like either I don't have all the pieces or I'm just not putting them together right. Hey, Coach Love. That has been the healing journey for me. And what happens when we make that decision to go back and reflect on how we were raised, how did we feel, how do we remember feeling in our home, how do we remember feeling when, we needed help or we needed support. Those questions bring you back to that inner self. And the inner self is who has all the pieces, right? It was almost like walking through a park and I got half these puzzle pieces and I'm just walking around, I'm trying to find all the pieces. And little 5-year-old Tanisha was sitting on the bench And she got this big old box of all the pieces, and I've been looking for it. When I tell you, I was so happy to reconnect with my inner child, because I was like, oh my God, yes, like this did happen, this happened, and it's like our inner, that inner self. No, they can't do anything about it, but it's not their job. It's not their job to do anything. We allow those old patterns, that old self, to come to the present and affect the life that we have right now. That's why we can accomplish all these things. We can just be great at all these things. And then as soon as our partner does something we don't like, it's almost like a flip just gets switched and we are an entire different person. That's your inner self. That is inner Tanisha. That's inner Coach Love. That's inner Sam. That's inner everybody that's still, I don't know who's still here. That's everybody that's still here. That's who that is. When you see yourself responding and acting in ways that later leave you confused, it's because that was your inner child. I know when little Tanisha is coming out, and I check her every time. Because those inner versions of us have not grown up because of the trauma that we experienced. They are not, that inner self is not, 30, 40, 50. G-Jack said, watch it. That inner self is not 30, 40, 50, 60. That inner self is whatever age you were when your initial trauma happened. Now, for me, I've been in coaching programs, therapy. I hired a spiritual coach. I've done a lot of. I've been doing this work for 10 years now on myself. So I know the age I was. I know the incident that occurred where I finally put two and two together. Like, okay, both of these people that brought me into this world, they really don't want me. That was my mindset as a child. Like, they don't want me. I'm a burden. So I'm going to be the best little girl possible. I was 5 years old when I came to that realization. I was raised by my mom and my great aunt, and my great aunt was already like 76 when I was born. And I remember she got to a point where, she had developed cancer. She was in her 90s. And she had to wear diapers and stuff because she had rectal cancer. And, she used to have a lot of problems like with her bowels and stuff like that. So she started wearing diapers. And I remember I was like 15. I was like 14 or 15 when I was helping my great aunt, like change her diapers, take showers. I was like 10 when I started like cooking for myself, and I learned very early on that nobody is going to help me, that nobody wants to help me. It didn't seem that way to my child mind. And so I ended up just doing a lot for myself. And now, right, at 39, when I'm sitting at my desk and I have a project due, and my supervisor is like, Tanisha, this project is due in a week, and I need it in a week, and I have other things on my table. Guess who comes out? Just guess. Like, put it in the chat. Little Tanisha comes out. Nobody's going to help us. She told us this last minute. How dare she? And now I'm not 5, 8, 9, 10 anymore. I'm 39. And now I have all this language and all this rage attached to the language. And so now I'm like, I can't believe you're doing this. This is disrespectful. I come to this agency. I give a full 8 hours every day, sometimes 10 or 12 hours, and you're telling me this last minute and Little Tanisha is like, this is our chance to fight back. This is that parent, this is that caregiver that put us in all these crazy toxic situations without any direction or any guidance, and we had to figure it out by ourselves. You have to stop this. Tanisha, you have to stop this. Or whoever is here, right? That's what happens. Our inner child is like, you have to do something about it. So for us, we come out, boom, guns blazing, and we can't understand where this anger, where this resent, where this rage, whatever the emotion that you're feeling, we can't understand where it's coming from. But it's coming from that place that's not healed. And so that's why I tell you, I have to sit or stand and just close my eyes for a minute and take a breath and say, Tanisha, this is not the same experience. Let's really look at what's happening here. We can ask for support. We can ask for extensions. And if it don't get done when it's supposed to get done, that's okay too. Because guess what? If they fire us because we did the best we could and we couldn't get a project done, that's why we have a master's degree in social work and 20 years of experience. And we can get another job just like that. We will be okay. And once I tell myself these things, that's how we affirm. See, people, listen, the way people talk about affirmations is beautiful, but I really want y'all to put more on it. Affirmations is just not like, I'm beautiful, I am worthy, I am, appreciated, I am loved. That's like the beginning of it. When we start to heal, you have to combine affirmations with what you know about yourself, and you have to come full speed. You have to say stuff like, I am an amazing worker. I am not going to stress over this situation. This is not going to be another experience where I feel lonely, hurt, and abused. I am going to get the support I need, and I will be okay. Right? Like, that's an affirmation for, the incident that I just described. Or if you're going through it with a partner or your spouse, before you feel yourself blow off at them, you need to remind yourself, you know what? I love this person. I know this person loves me. Something must have happened today. This is why they're talking or responding to me like this. I love them, and I also know that I'm not going to talk to them while they are in this activated phase. I do not deserve to be treated like this. I am going to text them back and say, I love you. I will talk to you when you are a different space. End the conversation. It's like, that's how we affirm ourselves, acknowledge our experience, while we also are setting clear boundaries that the same thing is not going to happen. Boundaries does not always have to be like aggressive, angry. And to be honest with you, if you find yourself setting boundaries like that, either one or two things you are experiencing. Either you're very new to setting boundaries, and when we're new to setting boundaries, everybody is rigid. I mean, that's just how it is. Or there's still some hurt and unresolved pain that you have, and I really want you to just embrace your anger and ask your anger what it's trying to tell you that you need. Right? But it's like, we don't have to always be angry. It doesn't always have to be like an end all be all. Like, you literally can just say, you know what? I'm not doing this today. I understand what's being required of me. I understand of what people are asking of me, but emotionally, I'm just not there. And that's how we keep our strength. You being vulnerable about what you are experiencing and how you are feeling is not a weakness. There is no weakness in vulnerability. What happens is we share the wrong thing with the wrong people, and we go into depths about what we feel. Vulnerability has layers to it. When you are in a new relationship, you should keep it very very neutral. You know, say for example, let's say that you have a friend that, you know, okay, let's say that you have a situation where you are really emotionally drained. It's been challenging for you like all week, and you got 3 different friends that ask you how you doing. Now that first friend that always got a lot of stuff going on, that you are there for them more than they're there for you, you want to keep it very, very simple. When they say, how you doing, friend? You just say, well, you know, hey, I'm living. I am here. I appreciate you asking me, though. How are you doing? And when you don't have that, you don't answer the phone because you don't have capacity to support them. That is not a relationship where you get poured into. That's a relationship where you pour. So if you don't have nothing to pour, it's okay not to really engage. Now you have that other friend that maybe you've been knowing for, let's say, 2 to 5 years. You know, like they're very open, they're very like giving to you. You have felt supported by them in the past. With that person, you may say, it's just so much going on. You know, I feel like, you know, every step I make, you know, it seems like I get pushed 2 step backs. You know, keep me in your prayers or keep me in your thoughts, whichever one you would normally say. And then they may say something back like, oh, I definitely will. And, you know, maybe they'll ask you more follow-up questions. And then, you know, depending on their responses, you can kind of guide how much you want to say. And then there's that friend that you've been friends with for a long time, or maybe it hasn't even been a long time. You just feel safe with them. And they ask you how you doing. That's the friendship you fall apart in. And you say, oh my God, I'm tearing out the seams. And you go into detail about what's happening. You know, I'm arguing with my partner, my kids are out of control, at my job, I feel like I'm going to slap my supervisor. I just don't know what's going on. Oh my God, that's that friend. But what we do, this is the problem. We go to that level of extension about how we feel about things and what we're experiencing with people that don't have capacity, with that first friend that I described. And because we struggle with people pleasing and codependency, many times we have several people who are like that friend number one. And I know y'all got them, because I had them. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I got rid of about half of mine. But I got rid of them in it took me about 5 years, but I had to let those friends, I had to let half of them go. And, you know, we love everybody, but this is what I'm learning about relationships, especially friendships. We have friends that only have a pint of love and support to give us. And then we got friends that have a quart, right, of love and support to give us. Then we got friends that got gallons. Me and you, we are gallons. That's why people come to us. We are very kind. We are very nurturing. We are very emotionally supportive people. The friend that is a pint, no matter how much they pour into us, that's all they got. They will never be able to fill us up. Never. Because they don't have it. The friend that is a quart, they will never be able, it will take days for them to fill us up. So when you see yourself at the bottom or at the half of your tank, you need to only be around your gallon friends. And gallon friends are people that have compassion, that are empathetic. You don't even have to say much and they know that something's wrong. They know your family history. You know, they know you emotionally. They are connected to you. Those are gallon friends. You hang around those people and you let them fill you up while you also are filling yourself up. And then when you get to a place where you feel full, you kind of overflowing a little bit, that's when you hang out with your pint and your quart friends. But we hang out with pint and quart friends all the time. That's the problem. So we got to start to level up. We got to start to get to a place where we get into spaces with more people who are gallon people. But the only way we can do that is we got to build that self-awareness so we can ask ourselves what we need. What do I need in my relationships? When I'm dating, what do I need from my partner? If I'm already married or already in a serious relationship, what do I need from my partner? What is my main source of need that I'm seeking with the relationship with my older children, with my parents, with my cousins, whoever it is? Ask yourself, what is the need that you have in this relationship? And then you actively seek out the need. But for many of us, we don't recognize our needs. Sometimes we don't even know what needs are. To say that we need people is a level of vulnerability that we don't like to disclose. But I urge you to. I urge you to just be open with yourself and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Like, what's important to me? When I did this work that I'm asking you to do, I acknowledged for myself that my need is emotional support. I don't know when I may never struggle with depression and anxiety. I don't know. You know, it may be a part of my life all the time because it is an emotion that we all experience. I don't know when it's going to get better. But I do know that every single day I'm getting better at accepting it. I'm getting better at managing it. And I'm getting better with understanding that it's just a part of life. And it's okay for me to feel that way. And I'm also acknowledging the reasons why I have anxiety is because nobody never really taught me how to take care of myself. And it's similar for many of us. You know, we didn't have, and that's why I keep talking about self-awareness. We didn't have the parent, most of us, who came into our life, showed us how to do certain things, sat down with our homework, rubbed our back, when we were having a bad day, showed us how to put ourselves together, groom ourselves. These are things that many of us did not experience with our parents. Our parents were focused on trying to figure out how to raise us. So the whole essence of this is how you groom yourself. This is what you do when you have a bad day. When somebody says something bad to you, this is what you do. Like, we didn't have those experiences. And so we ended up having a lot of anxiety around how do I actually take care of myself. For many of us, that is the root of the anxiety, if you want to know. Like, we've been anxious for years, decades, trying to figure out how to survive with no instructions, or very little instructions. And so now as adults, oh yeah, we've mastered it. We've took classes. Hey, my friend is on here. Hey, sis. We've took classes. We talked to people that we trusted, and we've created a baseline of how to function and live that we feel good about. And we got to give ourselves credit for that. But it's also good for us to acknowledge we didn't get it because that's a need. So for me, that's a need. I had to accept that. Like, God, I am the friend that will call my friend and be like, how does this look? Did I do my hair right? How do you lay your edges? I keep burning my salmon. Do you have any tricks? Like, this is, and I laugh and stuff, to make it a little bit more fluffy than, because I know this is a hard topic. So I try to make it a little tolerable with some jokes. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I had to learn for myself, Tanisha, this is the need. Like, this is what you need people around for. to kind of affirm, to validate. Do I need people to validate who I am? No. But I do need people to validate, to help me in a sense with, is this really how stuff is supposed to be? Because I don't know. And that was a hard place to sit in, but there was so much growth there, and it built my self-awareness so much. And the reason why I bring it up is because we get upset with people because they didn't go to a concert with us, or they keep asking for money, or they don't pick up the phone when we need them. That's very basic stuff. But when you really understand the root of what you need, you're now communicating with that person from a whole nother level. It's a level of self-awareness. It's a level of a different level of communication, as well as empathy for them as well. Because you understand it's not about the concert. It's about the time. It's about the time spent. Hey, yeah, I asked you if you wanted to go to a concert, but I actually just want to spend time with you. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling like I don't have anybody. Can we kick it? If you don't want to go to the concert, can we make a picnic and just sit in the park? You know what I'm saying? It's it opens up everything when we understand ourselves, and our needs. That's what I'm trying to portray. And so once we get to this level of accepting, yes, I do have needs. Yes, I am mindful that I'm maybe not as in tune or not as self-aware as I would like to be. That's when we can start doing something about it. So it's we build our self-awareness. We grieve our childhood experiences. We grieve the experiences that we wish we had. And then after that, we start to grow now from these, quote unquote mistakes. I don't like that word anymore, but we grow from past decisions, and we ask ourselves, what did that decision teach me about myself? How do I want it to look differently moving forward? And this is how we create this beautiful relationship within ourselves, where we can learn that we truly can heal and also deal with life. Right? So in my up and coming workshop, these are the topics that I will be going over in more depth. I really like to build community in my workshop, so I decided for this workshop, the workshop is Sunday, October 8th, and then probably within 2 or 3 weeks, there will be a follow-up meeting, for all participants of the workshop. That's free, of course, where we just can connect with each other, ask each other, how has it been using some of these new tools? How has it been, really accepting where we're at? And we also have a group me chat where, I share, other participants share, just all throughout the month so that we can stay connected. Because there's power in community. I believe in community when it comes to healing, because I did my 12-step program and it worked. Now, everybody you meet is going through something themselves. I'm not going to try to paint this picture that is going to be great and you're just going to connect with all these people. However, if you're in a season of just trying to figure out what you need, trying to figure out, what does this healing journey really look like for you, being in groups like this is very helpful and supportive, because it provides you a space to be able to understand that you're not alone, that there's other people in the world that are trying to heal, that are trying to figure out, what people pleasing is all about, what codependency is all about, and all these things. And so I really enjoy having the group for that purpose, so that people can see oh, I'm not alone in this journey. Because I remember in my journey, I used to feel it had its moments, where it felt really lonely. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to go to a group, because none of my friends, were people pleasers, codependents. If they were, we weren't talking about it, and I was just like, man, where do I go to have a space? Where do I go to connect with people? And that's where I found it, in these support groups. So I truly hope that today you can remember, how do we heal and deal with life? Number one, we grieve our past experiences. We ask ourselves, what is the life that we did not have because we were people pleasing, because we were codependent, because we were more focused on others than ourselves? And how do we want to start to create that life right now? Because you can. Grieving the life that you wanted doesn't mean that you sit in that emotion and you do nothing. It means that you acknowledge that there's some feelings there about starting life at the age you are now, and you sit with yourself and you ask yourself what you need. And once you do that, now we build up our self-awareness. We ask ourselves, what are our triggers? What are our needs? How do we want to actively be a participant, like in seeking our needs? And then self-compassion, being in tune with yourself. Michelle said awareness is key. It really is. It is. And being in tune with yourself and giving yourself compassion. People ask me sometimes, what exactly is compassion, and why is there so much talk around it? A lot of people who grew up the way we did, they don't really have compassion for themselves because nobody had compassion for them. We were told when you come from a mindset or environment, I should say, that made you feel or actually verbally told you need to figure it out. In your mind, that's what you do. You figure it out. We've been trained and conditioned. I didn't know how to stop and reflect and think. I didn't even understand the purpose of it. My mindset was, if I don't have something, I need to figure out how to get it. That's it. Like, there's no pausing, there's no resting. If I did the things, if I saw myself like 10 years ago doing the things that I do now, I would probably call myself lazy. Now, if I wake up in the morning and I start the day and too many bad things happen during the day, I just pause and be like, all right, so today is kind of rough. So we just going to take a nap. We going to hit the reset button. So I put the alarm on my phone for an hour. I take a nap. I wake up with a fresh mind. I start again. But Tanisha, nah. Like, nap? What you talking about? Like, we gotta figure this out. This is a crisis. And I had to learn, but every day I'm living in crisis, though. Whether it be my crisis or somebody else's crisis. My friend on here now, she would call me. I'll be talking about everybody except me. She would be like, how are you doing? What? It was like foreign language. Like, with me? What you talking? I mean, yeah, I'm all right. I don't know. Like, didn't you just hear what I said? Like, that was a mindset I had, right? Not being in tune with self at all. No compassion. So in the workshop, we talk about that. We talk about how can we give ourselves compassion. We talk about how can we be in tune with ourselves. And then lastly, of course, we talk about growing from these things, like how do we start that growth process? Like, how do we start that rebuilding process within ourselves? And it looks different for all of us. The foundation of me rebuilding myself was a combination of falling back in love with writing and my dad passing away. That was my foundation. I started healing, I think I was 28, 29, when I first started going to therapy and stuff like that. But I did not truly make a commitment to myself till I was about 34. And many of you I have to thank for that journey. because I really wanted to write a book. And I kept beating myself up like, you gonna write this book, ain't nobody gonna buy it but, you know, your friends and a few family. You gonna pay all this money to write a book, like you don't know what you're doing, you know. Don't nobody care, you know, don't nobody care about your sad songs. That's what I used to tell myself. Horrible way I used to talk to myself. But I did it anyway. And when I wrote the book, it's when I saw many of you all's names floating in my email one day. I was like, because you know, when you first promote if any of you ever decide that you want to write a book, when you first write a book, people tell you, like my editor told me, be prepared for just family and friends to buy the book. So that's where I was at. So I was just sitting on the couch, you know, I released a book or whatever, and, you know, I had all my envelopes and, you know, books and everything stacked up. And I remember I had pre-ordered 30 books because I was counting up family, friends, you know, the real friends, not the ones that be like, hey, girl, and then you don't hear from them. Like, I'm talking about the real friend, you know, family, the real friends. I was like, oh, I probably need about 30 books, you know. So I got 30 books, and I was just sitting in my living room, and I kept seeing, you know, my friend's name run across, and every time I would see somebody run across, I'd be like, oh, she's so sweet. Oh, look at him. Oh, right on, cousin. Thank you. You know, and I'm texting people like, hey, I saw you just ordered. I appreciate you. And then y'all's names start flying through. And I was like, who is this? Colorado. I don't know nobody in Colorado. New York. What? Chicago. When I tell you, the book was going more places than I've been in my life. Okay, I think my book been in every single state. I was like, Utah. I don't know nobody in Utah. Who is this? And for a minute, I was confused because I was so used to that inner voice that was like, nobody cares about you. Don't nobody want to read nothing you got going on. Blah blah blah. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Tanisha, you've built connection and relationships with your followers. You've been talking about this book, and so now they want to read it. And I was just like, wow. And I just broke down in tears, like right there in my living room. And I watched all the orders come in, and at the end of the day, it was like 75 orders. And I was panicking. I was like, oh, I gotta tell all my family and friends, y'all gonna get y'all books later, because I got real people. I was like, I got real orders to place. I got people that gave me their hard-earned $12 and they need these books ASAP. So that was my foundation, you know, that was my foundation for my healing journey. And when I released my book, when I released my book, my dad had died 5 months before I released it. So I almost wasn't going to release it because in my mind, I was like, the main person I wanted to read it is not here. But I did it anyway. And that became my foundation. So I want you to ask yourself, what is your foundation? And it might be a painful memory. It might be, you know, something that really makes you pause and sit down. But acknowledging it is going to be so well worth it, you know. It's going to build just so much of a trust within yourself that you can do this. It's like you truly can heal and experience life. Like it's not it's not something that's not unrealistic, you know. It's not something that is just far-fetched. Like it's real, you know. And all these experiences is a part of life. You know, would I have liked the foundation of my life to be like a combination of me being really happy about one thing and very sad about another? No. You know, I never thought that by the time I really started to love myself, you know, my dad wouldn't be here to see it. I thought that was something that me and him was going to be able to share together. Because he used to always tell me, oh, you beautiful. He used to call me his black princess, and I would be so stuck on the black part because I was insecure because I'm dark skinned. Like, why I can't just be a princess? Why I gotta be a black princess? And we would laugh about that, but it's like that was his way of trying to help me embrace, you know, my melanin skin, right? I know that now. I didn't recognize that back then, but many of us, I mean, you have the same story as me. It may not be the same scenarios, but I'm sure that you'll find in your foundation as well that you may have these very joyful moments of setting boundaries and getting out of like toxic relationships and making job changes and, you know, speaking up for yourself. And then you also have moments where your older kids stop talking to you. Or you remembered, you know, when you got physically assaulted, or you remembered when you got yelled at 6 years old and you couldn't understand why. It's like all of these things is a mixture, you know, of what our healing journeys look like for all of us. And so I just ask you to sit down tonight and really be honest with yourself and say, where have I came from? What are the experiences that made the being that's in front of me right now? You know, what made up me? You know, what was it? Who was it? Right? And really allow yourself just to like free flow, you know, journal, and you'll find so much there. Hey, Sweet Jones, it's nice to meet you. You'll find so much there, you know. And it is a lot of pain and a lot of sadness there, but it's all a part of our healing journey, you know. And I thank God for mine. You know, I'm grateful because if it had not been for all these things happening, the good and the bad, I wouldn't know who I am right now. You know, this is my last year in my 30s, and I have a lot of feelings about it. But one feeling I do have is gratitude, because I'm like, wow, I'm walking into 40 actually really loving myself and who I am. Like, I'm taking care of my health. I'm diabetic. Like, my blood sugar numbers were like in the 300s and 400s for about 10 years because I coped with stress from life through eating. And I was, you know, I've been overweight like my whole life, you know, because being able to eat has always been a stress reliever for me. Food has been my best friend. Many of us who have mother wounds resort to food. So you may even see that habit in your life as well, because food to the brain, food gives the same nutrients that a mother would give. And so that's how our brain reads food. You know, plus, of course, you know, it makes us feel good because it tastes sweet or it tastes good or whatever, all those things. And so I've always been, you know, overweight. So always, you know, struggle with diabetes. And this year I said, you know what? No matter how anybody makes me feel, I'm not going to eat. No matter how bad the day is, I'm not going to overeat. And it was challenging. I had to really sit down, you know, with my inner self and say, food is what kept us, but we can't keep doing this. You know, in the workshop, we're going to talk about the power of reparenting or self-parenting, as some people call it. Self-parenting is when we're able to give ourselves, they started vacuuming, sorry, but self-parenting is when we give ourselves the things that we didn't get from our parents. So put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me, because they started vacuuming. For one, yeah, they started vacuuming upstairs. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. But self-parenting is when we start to give ourselves the things that we didn't get. Like, we sit down with ourselves and have a conversation and say, okay, you guys can hear me perfect. We sit down with ourselves now as adults and we say, you know, Tanisha, I know you really want to do this, but, you know, we can't. I know you want to be in this relationship, but we can't allow people to talk to us the way this person is talking to us. I know that you really want to stay at this job, but they're not supporting you. You know, it's time to move on. I know that you really want to, you know, block this person out of your life because they hurt your feelings, but you also want to work on your communication. You also want to work on being your own advocate, and this is an opportunity for you to do that. It's like those hard conversations when we know we are thinking or saying things that we no longer, you know, or behaving in ways that we no longer want to behave in. That's when we have to take the wheel and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. And, you know, it's funny because I can laugh now, but when I was going through it, it was crazy. I mean, I would literally be at the grocery store just stuck in the ice cream aisle, almost about to cry, like, man, I really want this ice cream. I can laugh now. But it's like when I came home and I journaled about it, I was like, wow, I had no idea how much my inner child was truly just taking over. And it was different. It was different this time. It's like she was no longer working with the $5 that our mama used to give us every week. She was working with a whole paycheck. And so she like, we about to get the ice cream. We about to make a banana pudding this week. It's like, it don't matter how bad the week got. Like, I used to treat myself with food. I would sit at the restaurant, you get the appetizer, you get the main dish, you get a drink, and you get the dessert. Like, you treat yourself to the full 9. And I give this example because when we start to heal and do our work, we can see these things. But we first have to be open to it. We have to be open to seeing who we really are. And I'll be the first to say that I wasn't. You know, like when I would look at how I used to eat, I you know, now I'll be like, what was going on? You know, Tanisha, like, you know, what were you experiencing? But in my mind, it was just like, somehow after this meal, I'm going to figure out how to feel better. And so I had to learn how to do that without the food. I had to learn how to feel better without the food. We can start the play-by-play on how to feel better without whatever we was reliant on. Mine was food. Yours may be shopping. You don't need that new t-shirt to figure out how to feel better. You can feel better without the dress. You can feel better without the sweater. You don't need to take that drink to feel better. You don't need to smoke that weed to feel better. You don't need another edible. What you need is to sit with yourself. That's what you need. You don't need the other vacation that most of the time we ain't got no money for anyway, right? How many of us? I'll raise my hand in a minute. You know what I'm saying? My credit cards and my food. That as long as I have my credit cards and my food, honey, I was fine. But all of that is stuff that we don't need. All we need is us right here. Right here. And it's painful. It's very painful to sit with yourself. But it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding. You know, I started dating. I'm going to tell y'all this story. I started dating. And it's been scary. I've been crying, anxious. And I had to sit with myself and I said, Tanisha, what's going on, sis? Why does this feel so hard? And what I realized was some of the first guys that reached out to me on this app, they were really good guys. And I said, wow, what if you don't find anybody just like this guy? You gotta just go at the pace they're going. You know, do all these things, you know, put up some new pictures, send your good morning messages, sing your affirmations, and they gonna come around. They gonna see. And I had to tell little Tanisha, like, no, we don't do that no more. I know why you think you gotta do that. See, you think you have to do that because you remember a time when nobody was trying to talk to us. Nobody was trying to acknowledge us. Some of our own family members told us that we was big, ugly, dark-skinned, never gonna find nobody. And you believe that. You internalize that. And that's the reason why we still single at 39. But what I need you to know, little Tanisha, is we are a grown, beautiful, amazing woman that does not need to wait for anybody. So it don't matter how good looking these men are. It don't matter what they got going on. We are still going to go out. We're going to go to mixers. We're going to do speed dating. We're going to do other websites. We're going to keep putting ourselves out there. And every single thing that we got on our list, we are going to get. We are not that same little girl that could not recognize crazy men who had mental health disabilities. We are not the same woman that put money on men's books when they was in jail. We are not that same woman. We are not that same woman, the woman that dated men who had 3, 4, and 5 kids by different women. You're not that person anymore. You are not that 27-year-old that got raped in the back of your own car anymore. You're not her anymore. We are 39 and fine, and we're going to get out here. So I need you to calm down, relax, enjoy the show, because we are going to have fun. That's the talk that I had to have with myself, being really vulnerable right now with y'all. I had to sit myself down and say, Tanisha, what's going on? Why is this so hard for you? Why are you waiting on these 2 people to call you back? Why are you picking up the phone and we ain't desperate? We ain't desperate for nobody. We are a beautiful person. We are an amazing social worker. We a whole writer out here, sis. We got 10,000 people that we are helping heal as we heal. We got to step up to the plate. We got to show how this self-love thing go. And I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I started talking to myself. I said, you know what, Tanisha, you right. That's how that self-love hit y'all. You be looking at yourself like, you know what, you right. You right. What am I talking about? Look at that pretty smile. You right. Girl, I'm tripping. Thank you for bringing me back. And we just end up having this beautiful dialogue relationship with ourselves. But we can't have that until we become self-aware. I had to be really transparent about what I had been through so I could have that conversation. I had to let go of all of that stuff. See, I don't want you to hold on to what you've been through. Remember it and embrace it and then let it go. It's no longer connected to you. I can stand up in front of people. I mean, it could have been, it's 4 of y'all on here now. It could have been 40 people on here now. I am no longer attached to my rape experience. I'm not attached to it anymore. It's something that happened. I wish it didn't happen. It happened. And I've healed from it and I've moved on. I forgave the person when they didn't even ask for forgiveness. I had to do it for me. I have moved on from my parents. They did the best they could. I love them and know it wasn't enough. So it's my job to do the rest. It's our job to do the rest. We have to let go. But see, we let go before we acknowledge. So when we start moving through life and we start acting certain ways and we can't understand why, and we start getting triggered by things that we don't understand why we're being triggered, it's because you haven't actually resolved it. When people say let it go, you first got to acknowledge that it happened. There's no acknowledgement. Your pain is seeking acknowledgement. And I'm telling you right now, it will not go away until you do it. It won't. I tried everything. I tried eating. I tried hopping into one toxic relationship after another. I tried vacations. I tried shopping. I was job hopping. Somebody say something I don't like, I'm on to the next job. I ain't got time for this. I did it all. One of the reasons why I even went to school is because I got tired of sitting in my own pain. I needed something to do. Well, this bachelor's degree ain't enough. I need to, let me get my master's. Master's ain't enough. I'm getting certified as a life coach. That's not enough. I'm working on my hours now to be a therapist. And I had to sit down with myself and say, Tanisha, but do you even want to be a therapist? Like, have you asked yourself these questions? The things that you're involved in, do you want to do them? Most of the time, when you see yourself lagging in a situation and you can't seem to make movement, it's because you really don't want to do it. And we say stuff like, well, I'm being lazy, I'm unmotivated, I lack self-discipline. And listen, maybe that's true. Maybe it is. I'm not saying it's not true. But what I am saying is when we have that self-awareness and we look at our situation with compassion, compassion says, why can't I do this? It doesn't say why I'm not doing this. Compassion says, why can't I do this? Why am I struggling in this? Is this relationship, is this job, is, this, career move, is this education move truly what I want to do? Until we learn to sit in those moments of being uncomfortable, we will struggle to get to the next. But one thing I can guarantee you is when you take that break, you're going to come back full strong, because that's self-care. That's you taking care of yourself. I had to give myself a break. I had a podcast and I was like, Tanisha, you struggling to record every episode of the podcast. What's going on? And when I journaled and processed, I said, wow, it's because you really like to write. So I got on here, and I'm not sure if you guys noticed, I started doing more posting where I was writing. So I would post a video, and the video would get 20 or 30 likes. When I post my writing to y'all, it would get 300 or 400 likes. So it's like I give that example to say the very thing that we be trying to force ourselves to do, when you just sit with yourself and you ask yourself, why am I struggling with this? You will discover a whole nother side. I really don't want to do this. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. We are no longer those little children that had to do what everybody else wanted us to do. That's not who you are. That's not who I am. We grown. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't force yourself to do it. As long as it's not affecting your survivalhood, you know what I'm saying? Don't do it. If you don't want to go out with your friends, don't do it. If you don't want to be in this relationship, end the relationship. Yeah, it's going to be sad. You're going to be crying because it's somebody that you loved, once cared about. But then you'll move on. Your spirit will be better. You'll be more productive because that energy will be gone. If you don't want to work at your job no more, start looking for another job. Why keep going there? Sad, depressed, mad. Telling people, what you sitting here for? I didn't come to work. Like, stop. We have to really ask ourselves, what am I involved in my life, and do I really want to do it? Is it serving me? Is it still serving me? Is being in the state you are right now, emotionally, physically, mentally, is it serving you? And if it's not, you can change it. You can change it. So I just appreciate you guys so much for allowing me to be a part of your healing journey. Y'all been listening to me for almost an hour, so I'm going to get out of here. But I am going to save this live so you can watch the replay if you came in late. And listen, please remember, the workshop is Sunday, October 8th. The link is in my bio. It is entitled Healing and Dealing with Life. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because I acknowledge that there are a lot of people that are on their healing journey and they don't know if they're doing it right. They don't know if this is how I'm supposed to feel. And I just wanted to have a workshop that you really felt like you had the tools that you needed. You know what I'm saying? That you knew that the way you feel about your life, this is healing. You know, like I told you, did I expect for my foundation of my healing journey to be falling in love with the fact that I love to write? I've always loved to write. And also losing my dad, absolutely. You know, it was devastating. But while we are on this seesaw of life, we can balance it out. But we have to grieve. We have to become self-aware. We have to get in tune with ourselves and our feelings and our needs. And then we got to grow from our mistakes and just let it go. We have to learn to let go. Once you combine all those things, you got your toolkit to healing. That's it. Everything after that is just embracing every single experience that you have and asking yourself what that experience is trying to teach you about yourself, what that experience is trying to teach you about your life, and what that experience is trying to teach you about the trajectory of where you should go moving forward. So, oh, thank you. Mocha said your lives always help me. I appreciate you so much. And thank all of you guys for joining me today. And I hope I see you on the next live. Talk to you soon. Bye.